Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. Sinranji of the Jiangdong circuit stood at the lead. He did not seem taken aback by Li Yunjing's words. He calmly said, feigning innocence, "Please forgive me, Your Majesty. After receiving the imperial edict in Jiangdong circuit, I traveled a day and a night back to the capital. How could I disobey if Your Majesty wants to see me?" Following that, the Jiangbei circuit's great General Wu said, "Your Majesty, it takes at least 10 hours to travel from Jiangbei circuit to the capital. If I plan to disobey the edict, how could I dare to appear in the capital at this time? Your Majesty, please try to understand." Then, the other great generals chimed in, "Please try to understand, Your Majesty." In front of all the civil and military officials, Li Yunjing naturally wanted to use facts and reasons. He knew nothing about cultivation, so it was impossible for him to use force. However, these great generals did come to the capital after receiving the imperial edict. He could not refute that. What should he do now? At this moment, Wuya said, 2 hours seemed like 10 hours for the distance from each circuit to the capital. Moreover, it seemed like all the distances of the circuits from the capital are the same. The great generals raised their heads to look at Wuya, who was sitting on the left side of the hall. He looked young and was dressed in a long robe. At first glance, he looked like a weak Confucian scholar, just like Li Yunjing. Meanwhile, Li Yunjing looked at his teacher, filled with admiration for his teacher's wit. Sinranji said, "The generals who arrived first waited outside the palace. It's normal that we encountered each other. At that time, the experts were fighting at the east side of the palace wall, blocking our entrance. We were worried about Your Majesty's safety, so we took a detour to the north gates to enter the palace. Your Majesty, please bear this in mind." Wuya continued to say, "That's even stranger then. 10 hours ago, Lord Zhang led thousands of commoners into the royal palace. He tried to prove his determination and sincerity with his death and insisted the 8 great generals wouldn't easily return to the capital. Which one of you is lying then? Lying about this matter carried the crime of deceiving the emperor." Sinranji looked at Wuya again. All of a sudden, he felt that the weak Confucian scholar in front of him was unusually difficult to deal with. However, any of the 8 great generals present were even more tactful than the little emperor. After a beat, he said, "This." Grand Duke Wangyun interjected, "This is His Majesty's teacher." Teacher? His Majesty personally conferred the title? Does the Ministry of Rights have the document for this? Sinranji asked curiously. The civil and military officials began to discuss among themselves in hushed voices. Under normal circumstances, no one would ask such a question. After all, this question was clearly disrespectful. Li Yunjing was about to speak when Wuya raised his hand. Then, he said in a deep voice, "I might be His Majesty's teacher, but I'm his teacher in private. There's no need for me to be conferred a title, nor do I need any documents to prove my identity. Moreover, I'm just a commoner. However, the commoners are like the heavens. The monarch and the officials might change, but the commoners will never change. General Tsin, are commoners not allowed to speak in the political announcement hall?" Upon hearing Wuya's words, the commoners who had yet to leave could not help but agree in their hearts. Unfortunately, Sinranji began to say. Wuya interjected, "You only need to answer this question. Can commoners speak in the political announcement hall?" "Yes," Sinranji replied with a frown on his face, clearly reluctant. Wuya said, "Now that we've dealt with the matter, let's return to the question earlier. Between you and Lord Zhang, who's lying?" Sinranji studied the young man in front of him. The young man was calm, completely unaffected by his words at all. He recalled the information he had received previously. Did Li Yunjing not gain the support of a cultivation expert? How did it turn out to be a scholar? He had even come up with a countermeasure to deal with the cultivation expert. He would die before he gave up his military power. After all, if he gave up his power, he would be no different from a tiger that had been defanged and declawed. His enemies would rush out and step on him at that time. The entire Tsin family would also be trampled to death by countless people. In the end, he said, I didn't expect Lord Zhang to be such a person. He actually slandered me like this. Wuya nodded and said, in that case, His Majesty's treatment of Lord Zhang was completely right. Do any of you have any objections? Wuya asked as he looked at the 8 great generals looking at each other in dismay. No, we don't have any objections. Li Yunjing's admiration for Wuya grew. They did not need to expend any effort at all to make these tigers nod their heads obediently, all his teacher did was move his lips. Wuya continued to say, one last question, I stopped His Majesty's imperial edict from being sent out. Whose imperial edict did you receive? The political announcement hall was as silent as a graveyard at this moment. Whether it was the civil and military officials, Sikong Beichen, or Nie Qingyun, all of them looked at Wuya as though he was a monster. Perhaps, the great generals were used to being dismissive of Li Yunjing. For many years, Li Yunjing's imperial edicts held no weight, after all. They would not even give his imperial edict a second look. It was better to speak to the spies in the palace to find out what was happening. Indeed, the great generals did not wait for the imperial edict to arrive before they had set off for the capital. As the saying went, the mantis stalks the cicada while the oriole follows behind. The great generals did not expect Wuya to have predicted their reactions. The atmosphere in the political announcement hall grew heavy. Shenranji felt as though his brain had stopped working. After a while, he finally realized a problem. He said loudly, how dare you stop His Majesty's imperial edict? Li Yunjing said, this is my intention. Shenranji stumbled a few steps backward. At this moment, 3 of the great generals fell to their knees and said, I admit to my mistake. Upon seeing this, Shenranji cursed inwardly. The thing he was trying to avoid had finally happened. Soon after, another great general fell to his knees as well. I admit to my mistake. At this moment, a person suddenly walked into the political announcement hall. Although the hall was part of the great inner palace, no one dared to stop him. Li Yunjing was the first to stand up. Following that, Wuya rose to his feet and called out, Master. Sikong Beichen, Nie Qingyun, and people from the Thousand Willow Monastery rose to their feet. Senior Lu Zhou rested his hands on his back as he slowly walked into the hall. His gaze casually swept past the great generals. Despite his aura being hidden by the purple glazed ceramic, the pressure he brought was even greater. The 4 Grand Dukes, the Grand Tutor, and the civil and military officials looked at him with varying degrees of admiration. The crowd parted and bowed. Li Yunjing even felt like giving up his throne at this moment. Zhou raised his hand, indicating Li Yunjing should sit down. Wuya sensibly gave up his seat and stood respectfully at the side. After he was seated, Zhou asked indifferently, what's the situation now? Wuya clearly recounted everything as Zhou nodded. He was very impressed with his 7th disciple's method of stopping the imperial edict. It completely tore the masks off these people's faces. Zhou looked at the old man in armor standing at the lead. He said in slight surprise, You're Shenranji? Yes, I am, Shenranji said. Who are you, old sir? Zhou shook his head. It seems like the reminder I gave at the Eastern Palace wall isn't enough. As soon as Zhou finished speaking, he raised his hand. The great seal of fearlessness shot out toward Shenranji, lighting up the entire hall. Shenranji was shocked. He did not expect the other party to kill him in such a direct manner. He raised his hands to block the palm seal. Bang! As expected, Shenranji was sent flying out of the hall, disappearing from everyone's sight. Not even his shadow could be seen. The great generals trembled in fear. Those who had yet to kneel down fell to their knees immediately. There was no doubt Zhou's method was direct and simple. Ding! Killed a target. Reward, 4,000 merit points. Domain bonus, 1,000 merit points. The atmosphere in the political announcement hall was incredibly tense. Everyone could only watch as this expert killed the chicken to warn the monkey. Li Yunzheng, Si Wuya, Si Kongbeichen, Nie Qingyun, and most people present understood the intention behind Lu Zhou's action. Was he not establishing might and prestige for his grand disciple? Although Si Wuya had handled the matter incredibly well, it was still somewhat lacking without this kill. This 1,000 realms whirling palm strike was perfect. Si Wuya opened his mouth and said at the right moment as his eyes swept past the remaining great generals, "Does anyone have any more questions?" Si Wuya stepped forward and raised his voice as he asked again, "I'll ask you one final time, do you have any questions?" Unless they had a death wish, who would dare to ask a question at this moment? There were many people who felt they were not afraid of death. However, the reality was different when the guillotine was placed in front of their necks. Si Wuya waved his hand casually. A piece of paper appeared in his hand before he began to read out loud, "By Jing, Di Zian, Ping Gu, Wucheng, these 4 generals can retire and return to their hometowns." After he was done reading, the paper in hand burned to ashes. Then, Li Yunzheng said to the people next to him, "Write down my imperial decree." Understood. At this time, everyone's opinions were unusually unanimous. The 4 great generals who had long expected this outcome prostrated themselves on the ground and said with mournful expressions, "Yes, Your Majesty." The others wore bitter expressions as they kneeled on the ground and echoed, "Yes, Your Majesty." Lu Zhou glanced at them before he slowly rose to his feet. Upon seeing this, the great generals shuddered involuntarily. "Lu Zhou, deal with this matter on your own." Understood. At this moment, Lu Zhou finally noticed the absence of the members of the Evil Sky Pavilion. "Where are the others? I asked them to guard the 4 city walls and gates to prevent accidents. The only one who's missing is 4th senior brother," Si Wuya said. "All right." After that, Lu Zhou flashed, leaving only after images in the political announcement hall. Needless to say, all the cultivation experts and civil and military officials were amazed. Back at the preservation hall, Lu Zhou used the purple glazed ceramic to meditate on the heavenly writing to replenish his supreme mystic power. After obtaining the supreme mystic power, the difficulty of comprehending the heavenly writing had increased accordingly as well. Even the golden scripts were moving slower compared to before. Nevertheless, his supply of supreme mystic power had increased. Based on this, it was obvious that future open heavenly writing power and privilege from the heavenly writing would only increase the difficulty of his meditation. After 2 hours, Lu Zhou finally opened his eyes after he replenished a portion of his supreme mystic power. "I only managed to kill Yi Yao by relying on the supreme mystic power. However, I can just rely on my supreme mystic power alone," Lu Zhou muttered to himself. Fortunately, Yanjinlua was not an enemy. Otherwise, he would have to use the deadly strike card. At that time, not only would he suffer a loss of merit points, but it would increase the price of the deadly strike card as well. His real shortcoming was a lack of knowledge regarding the combat techniques of the 1,000 realms whirling. When he had fought Yi Yao for the first time, he had used the deadly strike card. The card had always been the trump card he was proud of. Unfortunately, the appearance of the birth charts had greatly reduced the value of his trump card. He wondered how those with more than 8 birth charts kill their peers. If all 1,000 realms whirling experts had birth charts, would it not render all the killing techniques useless? "Yanjinlua," Lu Zhou muttered. It was not a bad idea to get information about birth charts and 1,000 realms whirling from him. At this moment, a voice rang from outside of the hall. "Disciple greets master." Soon after, Ming Shirin walked in with Qiongqi in tow. Qiongqi wagged its tail energetically, it seemed to be in a good mood. Lu Zhou said, "Where did you go?" Ming Shirin said, "I found a little thief so I killed him." As he spoke, he made a chopping gesture. "A little thief?" "Yi Zhen's disciple." "You know Yi Zhen?" "When I first arrived at the Red Lotus domain, I heard people talking about how you killed Yi Zhen," Ming Shirin explained with a smile. "I didn't expect Yi Zhen's disciple to also have a 9 infants avatar." Lu Zhou nodded and said, "Well done. Master, before I killed him, I overheard him saying he's the contact person for that Black Lotus cultivator. I found this on his body," Ming Shirin said as he brought a map out. The map was marked with dots. These must be the formation distribution points, Zhou said. Give this to your 7th junior brother. In order to avoid alerting the enemy, don't attack these points first. Understood. Ming Shirin brought the map with him as he left the preservation hall. Zhou still did not have a clear picture of the Black Lotus domain's overall strength. If he destroyed all the points of the formation, it would definitely attract the attention of the Black Lotus Tower. If all of them came, he would be in trouble. When he was strong enough, he would destroy these distribution points. At that time, he would be able to search for life hearts. Not only for himself, but for his disciples as well. His disciples had the Great Void seeds in them. Based on their cultivation speed, it was only a matter of time before they reached the Thousand Realms whirling stage. At that time, where was he going to find so many life hearts? Hopefully, I'll find out something useful from Zhenghai. Zhou opened the system interface. Merit points, 69,500. He had earned quite a lot of merit points this time. Fortunately, he still had his enhanced deadly strike card. Unfortunately, the price of a deadly strike card was 27,000 merit points. How expensive. Lucky draw. Ding. Used 50 merit points. Thank you for your participation. Luck point +1. Lucky draw. Ding. Used 50 merit points. Luck point +1. Obtained, Synthesis Card X2. Following that, Zhou did not continue with the lucky draw. Instead, he thought about Zhenghai's words. There were many differing opinions in the Black Lotus domain regarding their captive breeding plan. The Golden Lotus was now developing rather quickly. Once a 10-leaf cultivator appeared, the birth chart beast would appear as well. At that time, the Black Lotus domain would definitely do to the Golden Lotus domain what it did to the Red Lotus domain. How do I stop it? After thinking for a while, Zhou decided to check on the Golden Lotus domain. He recited the mantra for the heavenly writing power inwardly. The supreme mystic power converged in his eyes, and Yi Tianxin appeared in front of his eyes. At this moment, Yi Tianxin was standing behind Cheng Huang. Cheng Huang was sitting on the back of the mountain in the Evil Sky Pavilion, overlooking the mountains and the land. Yi Tianxin, who was dressed in white robes, rose up into the sky. Her 9-leaf golden lotus bloomed and golden flames burned everywhere. There was a hint of green in the flames that made it look strange. This karmic fire is Zhou furrowed his brows, perplexed. The birds in the sky were instantly driven away by Yi Tianxin's karmic fire, leaving the Evil Sky Pavilion safe and sound. Zhou cut off the heavenly writing power before he recited the mantra again. This time, his target was Zhao Yu. In a garden in Great Yan's imperial palace. Zhao Yu stood in the garden and smiled at a woman standing near the rockery. Sister Lian Xing, how long do you plan to stay this time? Lian Xing. Zhou tried to change his perspective to have a better look at the woman, but he could only see her back. When did Zhao Yu have an older sister? The woman said, I won't be staying for long this time. The cultivation in the Golden Lotus domain can no longer be suppressed. Zhao Yu, all these years, I've been trying to suppress your cultivation base. However, there's nothing I can do about it now. Did you think about what I told you previously?